Before diving into Agile's specific techniques, understanding its estimation principles is important. Agile estimation is a strategy that focuses on making educated guesses rather than precise calculations, recognizing the importance of adaptability in the face of project uncertainties. Unlike traditional models like the waterfall, which seek detailed, upfront planning, Agile embraces the unpredictability of projects by relying on available information. This approach ensures flexibility, allowing for project adaptation as new information emerges or conditions change. Moreover, Agile emphasizes a shift from absolute to relative estimation, avoiding exact day assignments for task durations and instead comparing tasks to categorize them as small, medium, or large. For instance, in a simple analogy, a fly is small, a frog is medium, and an elephant is large. Encountering a rhinoceros, we'd compare and likely categorize it as large, similar to the elephant. Yet, crucially, these categories are project-specific. What's large in one context might be medium in another. This adaptable strategy allows teams to refine their estimates as more details emerge or as the project evolves. By focusing on relative rather than absolute sizes, Agile enhances flexibility, simplifies adjustments, and mitigates the risk of scheduling problems inherent in more rigid, traditional methods. Estimation plays a pivotal role in Agile methodologies for several compelling reasons, enhancing the project management process and ensuring smoother workflows. Here's why estimation is crucial in Agile. First, estimation gives teams a rough idea of how long tasks and features will take to complete. This insight is invaluable, aiding decision-making processes on whether to proceed with a feature in the current sprint, postpone it, or reevaluate it entirely based on estimated effort and resources. By providing a preliminary view of the project timeline, estimation facilitates informed planning and resource allocation. Next, estimating encourages teams to delve deeper into the project's features and requirements. This detailed review not only clarifies the project scope, but also identifies any gaps or ambiguities. By thoroughly understanding the tasks at hand, teams can execute projects more accurately and comprehensively. Moreover, a key benefit of estimation is its ability to identify complex or high-risk tasks early in the project lifecycle. Recognizing these challenges upfront enables proactive discussions on potential solutions or necessary adjustments, mitigating risks and preventing delays for smoother execution. Additionally, accurate estimation ensures realistic expectations among all stakeholders regarding the project's scope and timelines. This shared understanding is essential for aligning team efforts with project goals, enhancing planning and adaptability to changes or challenges. It promotes a culture of transparency and collaboration, with all members aware of and adaptable to project dynamics. In summary, estimation in Agile transcends mere task quantification. It's a strategic activity that bolsters planning, clarifies requirements, identifies challenges, and aligns stakeholder expectations. Through effective estimation, Agile teams can navigate project management complexities with increased confidence and flexibility, driving successful outcomes. There are many relative estimation techniques in Agile. For example, the big, uncertain, small, bus estimation technique offers another layer of simplicity by categorizing tasks into three broad groups: big tasks that might need breaking down into smaller chunks, uncertain tasks that require further clarification, and small tasks that are straightforward and quick to complete. Bus estimation helps in initial sorting of tasks based on their perceived scale and complexity, making it a good starting point for more detailed discussions and planning. Another popular technique is the t-shirt sizing method that employs clothing sizes, such as XS, extra small, S, small, M, medium, L, large, and XL, extra large, to categorize tasks based on their complexity or time required for completion. This approach simplifies the process of estimating work by using familiar size categories, making it easier for team members to reach a consensus on the relative scale of a task without getting bogged down in attempting to quantify hours or days. Similarly, the bucket system is another method used in Agile estimation, which involves grouping tasks into predefined categories or buckets. Each bucket represents a range of effort, complexity, or duration required to complete the tasks it contains. The bucket system is particularly useful for quickly sorting a large number of items during planning sessions, helping teams to efficiently allocate resources and plan sprints based on the relative size of the work items. Both t-shirt sizing and the bucket system, along with bus estimation, focus on relative estimation, where the emphasis is on comparing tasks to one another rather than defining absolute values. This approach is conducive to Agile's adaptive planning and helps to facilitate discussion and prioritization among team members, ultimately leading to more effective sprint planning and project management. Importantly, whether using t-shirt sizing, the bucket system, or the big, uncertain, small bus technique, the main goal is to ensure team members have a shared understanding of the effort tasks require. The essence of successful Agile estimation is its relative approach. Therefore, it's entirely acceptable to develop a custom system that suits your team's specific dynamics and project requirements. As long as there's a consensus on the significance and scale of the estimations among all team members, any method can effectively bolster the adaptable and responsive nature of Agile project management. Story points are a key metric for estimating the effort needed to complete user stories in Agile project management. They are integers that aggregate various factors contributing to the bigness of a story, encompassing complexity, work volume, and potential uncertainties or risks. The numbers for story points are derived from the Fibonacci sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, where each number is the sum of its two predecessors. This sequence effectively mirrors the increasing uncertainty and risk associated with estimating larger tasks. As complexity grows, our confidence in estimation diminishes, reflected in the widening gaps between the sequence numbers. The main role of story points is to gauge the required effort for a story by considering its complexity, amount of work, and any associated uncertainties and risks. In this system, higher numbers, such as 13 and 21, denote stories of greater complexity and higher risk, suggesting a need for more resources or time for completion. For stories with high point values, usually more than 13, it's recommended to decompose them into smaller, more manageable tasks. This not only simplifies the estimation process but also aids in more precise planning and execution, allowing for a better understanding of each component's requirements and challenges, thereby improving project management efficiency and effectiveness. Utilizing story points and grasping their foundational principles empowers Agile teams to refine their estimation practices, facilitating improved project outcomes and streamlined workflows. But how do Agile teams go about estimating and assigning story points to user stories? In the Agile estimation process, teams evaluate user stories against a set of criteria to gauge the required effort and resources for completion. Let's outline the key criteria applied in Agile project management. 1. Knowledge understanding evaluates the team's clarity on what each story aims to achieve and its requirements. A solid grasp on this aspect ensures the team can make informed decisions about the effort and resources needed. 2. Complexity evaluation assesses the technical and logistical challenges inherent in a story's implementation. This reflects on the time and expertise required, influencing priority and scheduling. 3. Volume assessment determines the workload and estimated time to completion, allowing for effective capacity planning and workload distribution across sprints. And 4. Uncertainty analysis identifies unknowns and potential variables that could impact the story's progress. This helps in anticipating challenges and integrating flexibility into the planning process. Now, to illustrate, Consider an analogy with dog points representing story points. When comparing the bigness of different dogs, the team must first define what bigness means: height, weight, running capabilities, or a combination thereof. For instance, if a poodle is deemed the smallest, it might be assigned 1 point. A bulldog, being larger, could initially be given 2 points. However, if a dachshund is considered to fall between the poodle and bulldog in size, the bulldog's points could be adjusted to 3, with the dachshund receiving 2 points. This example demonstrates that estimation is relative to the items being compared and may require adjustment based on the inclusion or exclusion of certain items. Planning Poker, also known as a Scrum Poker, is a popular consensus-based estimation technique used by Agile teams to estimate the effort required for user stories or tasks. It used a gamified approach. It involves team members using cards with numbers, often Fibonacci numbers, to represent their estimate of how much work a task will entail. Planning Poker, also known as Scrum Poker, is a consensus-based, gamified technique for estimating, mostly used to estimate effort or relative size of user stories. In Planning Poker, members of the group make estimates by playing numbered cards face down to the table, instead of speaking them aloud. The steps typically involve: the product owner or team member presents a user story or task to be estimated. Then the team members discuss the user story or task to ensure everyone understands what's being estimated. Any questions are answered by the product owner to clarify requirements or details. Next, each team member selects a card representing their estimate of the effort required for the story or task. This is done privately to prevent influence from others' choices. All team members reveal their cards simultaneously. If estimates vary widely, the team discusses the reasons behind the different numbers. The highest and lowest estimators often justify their reasoning, providing insight into their thought process. After discussion, team members may revise their estimates based on new understanding gained during the discussion. Steps 4 to 6 are repeated until the team reaches a consensus or the facilitator determines that enough discussion has occurred to make a decision. The final estimate is agreed upon and recorded for the user story or task. This consensus takes into account the insights and concerns raised during discussions. Proceed to next item. The team moves on to estimate the next user story or task, repeating the steps until all items in the backlog or for the sprint have been estimated. Planning Poker combines group wisdom and individual insight to produce well-considered estimates, making the estimation process more accurate and engaging for the entire team. Let's look at an example. The product owner presents a user story detailing the need for a password reset feature, including sending a reset link to the user's registered email. Next, the team engages in clarification, asking questions like, "Do we need to implement rate limiting?" The product owner confirms the necessity for rate limiting to prevent abuse. Subsequently, team members individually estimate the story's complexity, considering back-end changes, front-end validation, and email system integration, and select cards representing their estimates. Upon revealing their cards simultaneously, the estimates vary: 2 5s, 2 8s, and a 13. The team then discussed the discrepancies in estimates. A developer who chose 13 expresses concerns about email service integration and security issues, while others had not considered the complexity of rate limiting. After addressing concerns, team members select new cards, considering integration and security issues raised. This time, estimates converge closer: 3 8s and 2 13s. The team agrees on a final estimate of 8 story points, acknowledging complexity but feeling more confident post-discussion. With the password reset feature estimated, the team proceeds to the next user story, repeating the estimation process. Agile teams use story points and planning poker to estimate the effort needed for user stories. Yet, These methods alone don't reveal how long it will take to the team to deliver anything. For that, we need the other half of the Agile estimating paradigm. We need to know the team's velocity. Team velocity measures the amount of story points a team can complete within a sprint. Essentially, it's the average number of story points finished in each sprint. Let's illustrate this with an example. Consider our product backlog, filled with user stories, each with a point estimate based on the Fibonacci sequence, where 1 represents the smallest story and 5 the largest. Our team, although small, commits to completing 29 story points in the upcoming sprint, making that their sprint goal. By sprint's end, they achieve only 16 points, with the remainder carried over to the next sprint. This puts the team's actual velocity at 16 points, indicating they overestimated their capacity. This experience is logged and will be used for future planning. By analyzing performance across sprints, the team can gauge their consistent velocity, aiding in better sprint planning and project timeline forecasting. Knowing their capacity allows for realistic commitments, aiming for a completion rate that matches their proven velocity, thus enhancing planning accuracy and project management. The burndown chart, a pivotal Scrum tool, visually tracks work completion across project sprints, with the vertical axis showing work in story points and the horizontal axis representing time across sprints. It features 2 key lines, the orange line, illustrating the ideal completion path, and the blue line, depicting actual progress, starting from the initial goal. In this example, the goal is to complete 120 story points over 10 sprints, starting with Sprint 0 where all work is pending. It's common for teams, especially new ones, to initially lag due to the learning curve of collaboration, often resulting in a slow start. However, as the team becomes more cohesive, the pace generally accelerates, allowing them to catch up or surpass their milestones. Strategic adjustments might be needed to stay on course or adapt to scope changes. By Sprint 1, the team's progress was behind schedule, a typical scenario for new teams finding their rhythm. Come Sprint 2, an improvement was noticeable with the team catching up and completing more story points than planned, indicating better team dynamics and efficiency. By the time we progressed to our second sprint, there was a noticeable improvement. The team managed to not only catch up but also complete additional story points, moving closer to the anticipated trend. This was a sign that the team was beginning to gel, and the processes put in place were starting to bear fruit. Sprint 3 marked a significant milestone for us as we exceeded our expectations. We completed more story points than needed to stay on course for achieving the target of 120 story points by the project's conclusion, set for after 10 sprints. This advance was a strong indication of the team's growing efficiency and capability. However, during Sprint 4, our pace plateaued with only a modest increase in completed story points, and this trend persisted through Sprints 5 and 6. By Sprint 6, it became evident that we were not maintaining the momentum needed. Despite being ahead in Sprint 3, the cumulative progress from Sprints 3 through 6 showed minimal change, indicating a stagnation in story points completed. As we look at Sprints 6 and 7, the realization dawned that we were falling behind schedule as the project neared its end. This prompted a critical evaluation of our strategy. To realign with our goals and ensure the project's completion within the original 10-sprint timeline, we considered making necessary adjustments, including the possibility of extending the project by adding more sprints to complete all tasks. Fortunately, Sprint 8 saw a turnaround as we managed to get back on track, completing the story points required to surpass the trend line once again. This recovery set the stage for the final 2 sprints, where we continued our momentum, stayed focused, and successfully completed the project on time. As you can see, the burn-down chart, crucial for project management in Scrum, provides clarity on a team's progress within the larger project framework. This focus is essential for sprint success, but can obscure overall progress. However, the chart's fixed scope model faces challenges in Agile's flexible environment, struggling to account for scope changes such as new tasks or adjusted estimates. This rigidity leads to a mismatch between the chart's projections and the project's evolving nature. Consequently, many organizations explore alternative tools that better accommodate Agile's dynamic scope, seeking methods that accurately reflect project adjustments and maintain alignment with Agile's iterative approach. To address this limitation of the burn-down chart, an alternative called the burn-up chart is used by some organizations. This chart also plots story points against sprints, but provides a clearer picture of project changes through two key lines. The orange line represents the evolving total of story points required to complete the project. The blue line shows the cumulative story points completed by the team. This dual-line approach allows stakeholders to visually compare progress and recognize if the project's scope increases or decreases, something the burn-down chart might obscure. So let's compare it to our turn-down chart. Interestingly, the two distinct charts we've constructed for this demonstration represent the same project, a project estimated at 120 story points at the outset. While the burn-up and burn-down charts might initially look similar, key differences emerge as the project progresses. Between sprints 2 and 3, the burn-down chart suggesting that the team accomplished a substantial amount of work during this period. This sharp decline indicates a commendable effort by the team to substantially reduce the outstanding tasks. However, a closer look at the burn-up chart reveals a different aspect of this progress. The apparent drastic completion rate is somewhat misleading, as it primarily resulted from the removal of work. Indeed, the team made forward movement. This is evidenced by the increase in completed story points during Sprint 3 on our burn-up chart. Yet, the rise wasn't as steep as the burn-down chart suggests. The primary cause for this discrepancy is the elimination of approximately 25 points worth of tasks from the project's total scope. And that's not the only thing. Let's look ahead on Sprint 3 to 4. When we analyze the burn-down chart for this period, it may seem as though the team's productivity plateaued, with little to no progress in terms of completed points. The progress appears stagnant. However, a different picture emerges from the burn-up chart. This chart highlights the introduction of additional tasks, with 35 story points being added during the sprint. This increase likely indicates the introduction or recommendation of a new feature within the project scope. It suggests that during Sprint 3, a decision was made to remove a less critical feature, and then in Sprint 4, either a new feature was introduced or there was a reconsideration and redesign of the previously removed feature. This distinction is crucial because it illustrates that the perceived lack of progress wasn't due to the team's inactivity, but rather the strategic addition of work. The burn-up chart effectively demonstrates this dynamic, clarifying that the team's efforts were aligned with evolving project goals, rather than simply falling short on task completion. Now let's look between Sprints 6 and 7. It appears we achieved notable progress. This initial observation suggests that the project advanced significantly. However, this perspective overlooks the adjustments made to our estimates. In reality, we decreased the overall story points for the project from 125 to 120. This adjustment is a critical detail not represented in the burn-down chart, highlighting a limitation in capturing the full scope of project changes. During the period from Sprint 7 to 8, it appears the team made significant strides in catching up. Indeed, they performed exceptionally well, tackling an additional 5 to 10 story points introduced during that sprint. The burn-up chart is particularly useful in this context, as it clearly demonstrates the addition of new tasks and the team's capability to effectively manage and complete these challenges, illustrating our progress despite the increased workload. In essence, while both charts track project progress, the burn-up chart provides a more nuanced view by illustrating how scope changes impact the project. It offers a transparent way to track additions, removals, or modifications to the project's workload, making it an invaluable tool for managing and communicating the dynamic nature of Agile projects. You can read more about story points, planning poker, in Chapter 8 of the coursebook.